That is our second conversation on Latin American entrepreneurship, and this conversation is going to be moderated by the amazing Nyatta, founder and managing partner at Bicycle Capital. A big round of applause for him and his speakers, Joao Barbosa, VP of New Ventures at Wellhub, Sergio Furio, founder and CEO of Creditas, Dr. Paul Judge, Chairman and Managing Partner at the Open Opportunity Fund, Sebastian Mejia of Rappi, Luis Silva, founder of Cloudwalk, and Andres Street, founder of Stone Co. and Theia UK.
Hello. 3 p.m. is a tough slot because energy is starting to go down, but we will keep it high. So we're going to take you on a journey from Latin America to the rest of the world. And with us on this journey are 6 incredible founders representing tens of billions of collective equity value. The thing people don't understand about Latin America companies is they get pretty big and valuable. So we literally have tens of billions of equity value on stage. And first we have Joao Barbosa, who is the founder of Gympass. Gympass is a global leader in wellness, and they've become a company that's headquarters not just here, but in New York, with a co-founder in Connecticut, which is where all successful founders, I think, want to live. We have Sergio Furio, who came from Spain to build in Latin America, to build in Brazil, because Brazil is arguably the most sophisticated and interesting place to build a financial services company. We have Paul Judge, Dr. Paul Judge, who is finding Latin American entrepreneurs who are operating outside of Latin America, specifically in the US, and he's going to tell us about why those founders are so special and they have all the ingredients you need to succeed. You know, if you can succeed in LATAM, if you built here, you can make it anywhere. We have Sebastian Mejia, founder of Rappi. Rappi is one of the iconic companies from Latin America. Rappi started in Colombia, expanded to Brazil and Mexico and elsewhere, and now has the incredible privilege of having an executive team that is truly global. It's a very America's executive team. A lot of American executives decided it's much more interesting to build a company in Latin America than be another nameless senior executive at a company in Silicon Valley. So that's a pretty interesting story to tell, and I think it's enhanced Rappi quite tremendously. We have Luis Silva, who is a true visionary in payments and is creating a company that is truly technologically based, truly powered by AI. I think your vision is you're going to provide payments to the planets beyond Earth and the universe and overall. So instant payments on Mars for Elon Musk will be built by a Brazilian. And at the end we have Andres Street, who is in a sense a bit of a godfather to this whole group here, because Stone, which is the company that Andre founded, was one of the first big successful outcomes after the crisis in Brazil in 2015. Incredible culture in that company. It's known for its culture. It's also a payments company that completely changed what people believed was possible from Brazil entrepreneurship and established Brazil as a leader in financial services. 25% of the world's fintechs are from Latin America. Brazil is arguably the most sophisticated market in financial services innovation in the world. And so here you have a pretty good representation of that whole group. So please welcome all our distinguished guests. And I'll start with a few questions, and I'll start with you, Andres. So tell us what you learned building Stone. And now you're moving to the UK, many years after Stone went public, to kind of do the same thing. So talk about those 2 journeys, the Stone journey and why the UK and how Stone prepared you to conquer the United Kingdom.
Very good, thank you. Thanks. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be with my colleagues here, as some I know for many years. So we started Stone in 2012 when the market in payments were getting deregulated somehow. There were 2 monopolies, one for MasterCard, one for Visa. It was a difficult moment for payments, no competition, and we decided to challenge that status quo and start something from scratch. Created a distribution channel that disrupted the way things were done in the payments industry. It was a long journey. After 10 years that we've been working very hardly on building the company, there was no venture capital in the beginning. Venture capital started coming in 15, 16. So it was not easy to get funding to finance such an endeavor. It was something that we need to raise a few billions of dollars. So it was definitely something very challenging for the moment. But we, the Brazilian market is very big. Now we have in Stone almost 4 million customers, 4 million small, mid-sized merchants that transact with us. So the market is here. The Brazilian market is very, very big. The problems are big. So once you figure out something to resolve, you have a big addressable market. So after a while, and after this was consolidated in Brazil, we saw that this situation that we found in Brazil in 2012 was somehow similar to other places. Payments industry was basically dominated by the incumbent banks, and they were used to play the same way, not using so much of technology, not using alternative distribution channels, not going directly, using the branch offices as the main channel for the customer interaction. So we found a more efficient way to resolve that problem, and we saw that it is completely applicable to Europe. So that's why we started a new company called Teia.
Are you saying Europe is an emerging market?
It's not an emerging market, but somehow there are some characteristics that made the market in Europe be somehow similar to what we found in Brazil. In Brazil, we had at the time lower penetration of credit card, growing very fast. There we have a much more penetrated, but we have the same incumbent banks competing, not using technology to help the customers and not going directly. So we figured out that the Brazilian experience of making a financial service company very customer-centric could be applicable to there. And in that region, we are based in England, but we work in different areas of Europe, in many different countries there, and we pretty much see the same thing. We have a culture, we created a culture in Brazil that is very, very customer-centric. Everything that we do, we put the customer first, and we try to work around their needs and create features and products for them, and trying to think with their shoes. So we are trying to replicate that in Europe. It's doing pretty well because, again, the banks are not used to think like that. So I think it's an exportable know-how that we created that started in Brazil and can be replicated.
And in many ways, Luis is the successor of that movement. So a next-generation payments company that's truly built on a technological substrate. And you're going to the US. In fact, you are in the US. We were talking backstage how the places you are most often are São Paulo, New York, and Palo Alto. So talk about Cloudwalk and what you're building with Jim in the US and what it means to build a technological payments company.
That's a great question. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. So in Brazil, we provide payments and banking services for sellers. We have 2 million sellers in Brazil right now. The company is growing like really, really fast. We are crossing $500 million in revenue, high double digits growth, profitable. And we decided since the foundation of the company that we wanted to use technology, a lot of technology, to help like humans to work better, to be more efficient, and serve all the customers. So I think like the customers, especially in Brazil, they need to have the best product, they need to have access to technology. And when you provide the best product for these customers in Brazil, we realized that they were pretty happy to use technology and paying the prices, nice prices, that they could like accept payments, borrow money from us, and do everything. But to be like truly efficient for all these 2 million customers, we have more than 5,400 cities. We needed to have more, so we implemented a bunch of AI stuff to automate the process, to do digital distribution. Today, we have the third biggest TikTok account in Brazil for the sector, the highest NPS score, one of the highest scores in different surveys about customer experience. And we knew that this formula to give the best product in the most efficient way to SMB sellers, we could replicate to other markets. So we went to US. In US, we launched a product called Gym.com. So basically, Gym.com enable the micro sellers, the nano sellers, to accept payments on their smartphones through tap to pay, receive the money in real time through instant settlement, and that's pretty new as well. We use a bunch of blockchain. We use a blockchain ledger to enable that. And there is an AI agent, that's Gym itself, that helps the customer to sell more, to buy stuff in a better way, to get more money. So in the end of the day, we are here to serve all the sellers in Brazil and US. And the vision of the company is to create a global payment network. Not just in Brazil and US. Brazil, we are growing pretty fast. US, we are starting right now. Pretty soon, we are going to be in other countries, other regions. And sometimes I joke that in the future, after we build a network in the planet Earth, we are going to other planets. So that's one of my jokes. But also, we are seeing how the impact of AI, especially Gen AI, is shaping how we manage the business, how we create business, and how we grow. So today in Brazil, for example, I can give like some numbers. We have 2 million customers, and 75% of these 2 million customers are supported by AI agent called Cloudwalk. It's a joke with the word Cloudwalk. And there is a pretty funny story. One day, Cloudwalk fixed the problem of one of my customers, and the customer was pretty happy. And the customer said to Cloudwalk, "God bless you and your family." And we were kind of, what's happening here? So there is a human blessing a machine.
And the machine's family.
Yeah, and we were, who is the family of Cloudwalk? And Cloudwalk, God bless you as well. So at that moment, we saw this, I think this friendship or this communication between humans and machines was just in the beginning. And we knew that that would reshape how we manage business, how we do distribution, and how we create and grow our companies worldwide. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll jump just to Sergio for a second to stick with this fintech theme, because Sergio is in a different part of financial services and came all the way from Spain through New York to Brazil, again, because there's this interesting dynamic here that makes it a really wonderful place to start these disruptive financial services companies. And Sergio will say a little more, but Creditas, his company, effectively helps people extract equity from some of their most valuable assets, cars and houses. And his joke is, I'm going to make Brazilians Americans. So tell us about Creditas, why you came to Brazil to build it, and what the progress has been so far.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure being here as well. There's this old said that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes a lot. If you think about it, Santander, BBVA, Telefónica, the large Spanish corporations, they made the money in Latin America. And the reason is because the Spanish market is quite small. So you want like a large market, inefficient, where you can go and stay there forever in some cases. So that's what attracted me to the country. I was looking at a country with $650 billion in outstanding debt that was priced at 35%. And I remember when I looked at that number, I said, this cannot be true. And then everyone was saying, well, but that's just temporary. It's going to change. That was 12 years ago. Today, the average rate that consumers pay is 37%, not 35, but 37. It took us 12 years, and we're still paying the same type of money. And essentially, there were like two angles that we were looking into. One was digitalization of the Brazilian population. The branch experience was terrible. It didn't make like any sense. Smartphone penetration at that point was very low. And it was a no-brainer. Something was going to happen. And then you have the new banks, the Creditas, the Gympasses of this world. And then the second angle is something that was astonishing. 75% of the residential real estate is unencumbered. People own their properties outright. And at the same time, they're taking personal loans at 120, 130% APRs. So we said, okay, so let's build technology, improve it over and over and over, go together through the customer journey, and let's make sure that they can access instantaneously to the value of their home, to the value of their car, even to the value of their salary, because they stay in the company for a while. So over the last decade, if you think about it, we have seen many things changing in the customer behavior, but this opportunity is still completely untapped. Then you would ask, okay, so why is it that that continuously happens? And this is one of the things that probably foreigners don't get right about Brazil, if you think about it. It's such a complex market that people get scared about it. And in reality, embracing that complexity is what's going to pay your bills for a while. It's crack the code on that, build your competitive advantage. If you think about around the table, these companies, what they are doing is they're figuring out a solution to a very complex problem, and then improve the technology over and over and over.
Great. And from explicit fintech, you can never run away from fintech in Latam. You go to embedded fintech, and I'm going to go to you, Sebas. Because Rappi is not DoorDash, it's not Instacart, it's like a very Latin American thing. And you built it first here, but now you've gotten all of these foreign executives to come and support you in building here. So talk about the initial journey of Rappi, how it's different from what people might analogize to other parts of the world, and then how you've extended the platform to these really high-quality executives to come work with you here.
Yeah, Rappi is I call it a pretty accurate representation of the culture of Latin America. This idea that you're going to use a service that is flexible, and it's a service that's going to allow you to get things and products delivered to you in a pretty efficient and magical way. I think that's very unique. When we started the company in late 2015, the product evolved very quickly into this multi-category product. The bulk of what we do is still restaurant and groceries. But it was us listening to customers, us taking their feedback and incorporating the product. It wasn't us looking at a company in China or in the US. It was a real conversation with the consumers. And for us, the journey, I'd say, maybe all the way through 2021, we were realizing that this is a very hard business to build. As you think about it, we operate in 9 markets. It's a very large consumer ecosystem. We do logistics. It's a low-margin business. And that inherent complexity of a business like this is quite large. And that's when we started thinking, OK, if we want to really change this, we're going to need to go and partner with some of the best people and operators in the world. It was pretty unheard of. I think there are very few companies in Latin America that have accomplished this. And we set ourselves to go and partner with some of the best operators that we could find. Talent is a personal passion of mine, and I was investing a pretty significant portion of my time into this. And today, what Rappi looks like is a business that has a very profound entrepreneurial culture that is very local, deep understanding of our markets, our cities. That's very important in a business like this. But also the experience and method of some of the world's best operators that decided to actually come and build in Latin America for their first time. And these are not just logos on a deck that many companies put. These are people that are really on the ground operating a pretty intense business. We also changed the culture of the company to be able to bring these two types of worldviews together. Everything we do in the company is in English. We plan in English. The meetings are in English. We get together, even though we have 35 people in the US, we get together every month. We travel to one city in Latin America. We get the extended leadership team together every 3 months. And I think this is one of the most interesting things that are happening in Latin America. I think that compounding of knowledge that we're seeing is incredibly profound. And this idea of bringing the Americas together, first, 3rd largest economies in the world. If Latin America was a country, it would be the 3rd largest economy. It's happening with capital, it's happening with products that are going to the US, but it's also happening with talent. And I think that's going to profoundly change the way companies are built with a very high degree of excellence and quality in these companies.
Latin America has world-class founders, but it also has world-class problems. And world-class problems attract people who want to solve really tough problems wherever they are, right? So I'm sure that's also compelling for the people you're talking to in the US. Let's jump to you, Joao, for a second. So Gympass started in Brazil, but now it's truly a global company. I mean, you'll say how many countries you operate in, but talk about that journey, because uniquely you've been able to become, and from Gympass now to Wellhub, so you've rebranded, you've globalized, your CEO is in Connecticut. So talk about that journey of globalizing and how you did it from building in Brazil.
a wellness company. So basically, when we started 12 years ago, we saw the opportunity to how to support people and employees to become healthier. And when we saw this is not only a trend, but mainly after the COVID, like the well-being, the concerns, and the protagonism of the companies to be a principal actor in those changes and the improvement of the health of their employees. It's not a trend, it's a need. And when we saw the opportunity and we started, we changed it, we pivoted our model like at least 5 times until we find the right model. We were try and error. We saw the opportunity that was no global player or anyone doing that or creating or building something relevant in this space. And starting in 2014, 2015, we started our global expansion, and now we have operations in Latin America, Europe, and US. We're a global company, global leaders in this sector. We created this segment of corporate benefits or well-being benefits. And I think like one of the success factors that we had, we always choose very well what not to do. Because when you create a product, you have a lot of challenge, and the trend it is try to tropicalize and build custom things for every country. What we did, like we tried to prioritize a lot, reinforce a lot our culture, our execution, and mainly to choose what will be our main battles and guarantee that we execute very well in order to gain scale, get the muscles, to diverse and create new verticals afterwards. So building the effort to build the product here in Brazil, gain scale, understand what will be the 80-20 rule that with this product, with this methodology, and with the culture and the right people in the right place, we'll be able to scale fast. And I think this was one of the most successful pieces that supported us to scale so fast, guarantee that we got the global leadership in this segment. And now looking ahead, it's not only a corporate benefit, but also what we are aiming. We have a huge challenge worldwide, and mainly Latin America, US, with our health system. How we can support them to be the main tool to support and help to work directly on the prevention side. Because if you ask everybody, do you want to be healthier? You want to eat better? You want to be happier? Everybody will say yes. The challenge it is why you don't do it. Why we have so few, not as many people as we wish doing physical activity and other stuff. And now our challenge, it is to push this button to personalize our product experience and make everybody healthier, happier, eating better, sleeping better. That will solve a ton of problems, not only for the companies, for the health system, and also to improve lives.
Excellent. And one theme, which we'll get to with Dr. Paul Judge in a second, is if you can crack the code in Brazil, it's a really good petri dish to refine your product, to refine your approach, to really get things right. And if it works here, it's more likely to work in other places, because this is a really tough market. And Dr. Judge, you support founders from Latin America building in the US. So they're based there. They're not building companies here generally, right? They're building companies outside of Latin America, but they were forged in the fire of Latin America and understanding what it means to operate here. So talk a little bit about Open Opportunity Fund and how you see powering Latin American talent to be such a powerful idea.
Yes, certainly. So Open Opportunity Fund is focused on investing in minorities, Latino and Black entrepreneurs. And like so many great ideas, it started with a text message from Marcelo that said we need to do something about this and create a $100 million fund focused on Latino entrepreneurs and Black entrepreneurs. And actually the next day I met Shu. So even though he's moderator now and founder of Bicycle, we worked side by side. So much of what I'm describing with Opportunity Fund, Shu shares responsibility in that success. But what we saw is 30% of the population in the US is Black and Latino, but only 3% of the capital goes to those entrepreneurs. And there's such an imbalance that means about $40 billion a year that should go to Black and Latino entrepreneurs is not showing up. But there's so many exceptional founders that should be backed. And we've now deployed $100 million into 75 companies, all founded by Black and Latinos. And there's a few key observations. I mean, one is, a minority entrepreneur naturally has the attributes of a world-class entrepreneur. There's the courage to take the risk to get started. There's the perseverance to just not quit when it gets hard. And also because of the traditional lack of capital, there's a resourcefulness and a scrappiness to keep going and to figure out how to get further with less. And we see that with people like Ricardo, who's the founder of Lumo. He's from Colombia, and he has grown 100% every year since we've invested. There's customers in about 15 countries in Latin America. So even though the company is headquartered in the US, they've already figured out how to expand internationally. The second thing that we see is, you mentioned kind of finding ideas here and expanding them globally. And this is something that someone mentioned to me years ago about Atlanta. He said, hey, you have real companies here. You have real industries. And so in Latin America, obviously, there's mining and manufacturing and agriculture. But those real companies, there's real problems that need to be solved. And those problems can be the solutions that are the core of tomorrow's startups. And we see people solving those problems in HR and payroll and finance. So there's companies that we've invested in, companies like Howdy that helps corporations figure out how to build a workforce in Latin America. And so there's locations in over 5 countries in Latin America that allow you to build finance teams and engineering teams. Also companies like OnTop that allow people to, in a globalization environment, how do you do payroll? How do you manage your team? And so they have clients, 1,000 clients in over 150 countries. And so again, like building the picks and shovels to enable solutions for tomorrow's problems. And the last thing I'll mention is there's this advantage that so many companies want to be in Latin America and haven't figured out how to get here, haven't figured out how to integrate. And so if you're building a successful company here, there's so many potential acquirers that want to make you part of their family. So for example, we invested in Arcus, and a year later, MasterCard acquired the company. And in the headline, it said MasterCard acquired Arcus to have access to the Latin America ecosystem, to have access to the Latin America financial system. And so these are just some of the attributes that show time and time again why minority entrepreneurs is actually an advantage to be different. And if you really enable that in the right way, you can take this entire ecosystem to the next level.
Great, thank you. Then I'll ask a quick fire round. We're sitting here 10 years from now, so it's 2034, FII Rio 10. And what are we saying about the Latin America founder ecosystem? Andre?
Still promising. I think much more balanced, with much more capital coming in, lots of successful stories. So much more like US, I think, with successful stories, with many great technology companies, but it's still promising. I think it will take a while. But Latin America, as we said, it's a place of lots of different problems that needs to be resolved. So we need great entrepreneurs. So I think 10 years from now, things will be much better.
Luis, what are we saying 10 years from now?
I think you are going to be leaders in the world in fintech. You are going to be the #1 country in fintech. I think you are going to be the #1 country in renewable energy, all the technologies. I think you are going to be the epicenter of the whole planet Earth on the next 10 years, to be frank with you. And
small ambitions.
Yeah, because we have I think we have the right DNA. We have a lot of resilience, grit. We have big dreams, and I think it's time for Latin America to get to the world stage and be #1.
Love it. Sebas, what are we saying in 10 years?
Let's say 3-4 million highly qualified engineers that have seen scale. I would say a breed of operators that have built products and have worked with incredible people that are off to launch just higher quality businesses. I would say successful companies, but with a nuance. I think the companies that we're going to see in Latin America are going to have a lot of capital efficiency in its DNA. It's a survival. I don't think companies are just going to be dependent on capital flows, and I think that resilience is going to be embedded in the business models, and as a consequence, I think we're going to see just better businesses.
Paul, what are we saying in 10 years?
I think that Latin America will leapfrog and become a leader, and there's so many trends enabling that. I think the democratization of technology, AI enabling codeless infrastructure to be built, education and broadband to catch up. And then events like this, when I see the government and academia and corporations coming together, that allows things to happen in years instead of decades and weeks instead of months. And that's going to allow Latin America to leapfrog a lot of places.
Sergio.
Yeah, the partnership of Rio de Janeiro with Riyadh is going to be attracting more venture capital money than Silicon Valley in 10 years from now. Yeah, we're going to export more people from Brazil to become global entrepreneurs than the US, because people want to stay in the US, but people here in Brazil, they want to conquer the world. They're more active, more passionate about what they do. That's going to be amazing. We're going to have a small company that was called Creditas and then became like a $10 billion revenue companies at that point and became the largest financial institution in the region. Looks like a plan.
Sounds good. Joao.
Well, I have an ambition vision here. Potentially we switch place. That potentially we will have an audience of great entrepreneurs, great companies, instead of just being us here at this stage, because we are the first cohort of successful companies in Latin. In a certain way, we are creating the path and the inspiration for other entrepreneurs to raise capital, to be structured, to think big, to solve their problems. And now, with the infusion of a new capital, because at the beginning, everybody had a lot of trouble to pave this path or to find the ways to create and develop those big companies, I really expect that we have the swift or the change here of scenarios that we have an audience of great entrepreneurs, great companies with more 10 years of development, and very happy here to start this journey in a certain way, be inspiration for a lot of people to create and try to solve new business with the access of capital, the access of talent, and the problems, the big problems that we have to solve here.
Excellent. So the takeaways, big problems in Latin America, but they forge really strong companies. You have world-class founders, and what they create can conquer the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Shu. Thank you so much for your clarity and for moderating this discussion.